Over 500,000 people gather in the nation's capital for one of the biggest youth protests since the Vietnam War.
A DC charity is collecting used Metro cars from visitors who came out of town for March for Our Lives. We'll tell you more who donated those cars. District Wire News starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Amanda Washington.
And I'm LaShawn Donaldson.
Thousands of supporters gathered in the nation's capital and cities across the country to stand up against gun violence. March for Our Lives is a movement in direct response to the Parkland school shooting that left 17 classmates and teachers dead. The weekend's march organized was led by survivors and students demanding stricter gun control laws. District Wire News' Bobby Thomas has the full story.
Organized this record-breaking rally, which brought out students, parents, teachers, and other supporters of gun violence reform from all over the country. Demonstrators were pretty creative with their signs and the messages they portrayed, but the overarching message was clear: gun violence has to end.
I'm tired of fearing for my kids' lives at school. My heart hurts every time I hear that someone's child has died in a shooting.
The organizers set a goal for the March for Our Lives rally to bring out the largest crowd in a single-day protest in D.C.
There are over 500,000 people who've come today from all over the United States. Some have come to push for direct congressional action. Others have come in connection with someone they know who have been directly impacted by gun violence.
The rally emphasized mass shootings and the more common shootings that have been occurring, leaving only one or a few children dead.
It's ridiculous that healthcare in our country is a privilege and gun ownership is a right.
I'm hoping that all the loopholes and background checks will be closed and that ultimately guns will stay out of the wrong hands. Vote. That's very important. I can't yet, but hopefully the time will come soon.
D.C. authorities took extra security precautions because of the many children demonstrators in attendance and later reported no violent altercations. Bobby Thomas, District Wire News.
D.C. wasn't the only location that marches were held. There were other sister marches, both nationally and internationally, and the crowds were just as large. In the studio with us today, we have Alexis Arnold, American University student and co-chair of AU Student Media. She's here to discuss her work related to the march and share her perspective. Welcome, Alexis, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you've done while at the march?
Yeah, definitely. I went on behalf of Black Print, which I also write for as a news editor, and we were really going around interviewing people, doing both video and a print interview, just trying to talk to the students that were in the area for the march, and we got to talk to some of the Stoneman Douglas parents as well. So it was really just a touching thing to see and to hear what they had to say.
So I know there must have been a lot of takeaways from the march. What do you think was the most impactful moment for you?
In terms of the most impactful moment, I'd have to say it was the speech by Emma Gonzalez, because it was just her decision to stand in silence was just so powerful, and unlike anything else anyone did that day, to really show the impact of what it would be to be in the school during that time frame, and now having to make it all the way here and not being able to grieve and just trying to work on that march, was just so moving.
And there were many things that people were saying about the March for Lives protest. Do you think that, what would be the greatest impact? Do you think there will be an impact since there were mostly a majority youth advocates at the march?
I think it'll give younger students a lot of energy and momentum to see that they can get things done in their community, because these kids were just, your regular high school students, and they decided to do something on a national scale, so there's no reason why you can't make change in their community. And even the show solidarity by the students to make like a really intersectional impact, and like talking to kids in other districts and really tackling gun violence as a whole issue.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for stopping by. And today, this is Alexis Arnold, who is the co-chair and student media of American University, and we just wanted to thank you for stopping by today.
Service disruptions and closures on Metro will soon be a thing of the past. WMATA will soon receive $500 million in funding to improve the DC Metro system. Joseph Riley has more.
The Washington, D.C. Metro is the nation's second busiest subway system, and one of the youngest. But despite being only 40 years old, the system is plagued with problems. Chronic service disruptions and safety lapses are constant, and extended closures for maintenance are a way of life for D.C. Metro riders.
I find that if I'm taking the Metro on off hours or like the middle of the day on the weekend, sometimes it's a 20-minute wait, and that's just the most frustrating thing in the world.
But now, WMATA is within weeks of finalizing its first ever dedicated funding package for $500 million. Jurisdictional infighting between the Maryland, Virginia, District of Columbia, and federal governments have for the past 40 years caused the metro system to be largely neglected. But now, residents are hopeful that much-needed repairs will get done.
You know, I've been in DC for 5 years, and there's countless issues with, track work and one of the stations, being on fire. So I think, that kind of renovation and making sure that people can travel safely.
Residents also hope that this increase in funding will bring about a reduction in fares.
I wouldn't want to see fares raised without other aspects of the Metro being fixed.
The DC Metro announced Sunday that ridership was over 500,000 during the March for Our Lives. This is the second highest ridership in the history of Metro. Joseph Riley, Washington.
A DC charity organization calls out for Metro cards. Miriam's Kitchen is asking out-of-towners to once again donate their unneeded Metro trip cards. District Wire News' Crystal Campos has more of the story.
A DC homeless organization is collecting used Metro cards from those who came out to the nation's capital for the March for Our Lives. Miriam's Kitchen posted on Facebook asking visitors to mail in their Metro Smart Trip cards so they can redistribute them to DC's homeless residents. The organization provides meals and housing services, but Chief Development Officer May Powers says transportation is a need they cannot always meet.
One of the largest barriers that they come to day to day is transportation, just getting to their appointments, whether it's their doctor's appointments or lease-up appointments. And so we put out the call for Metro cards because it's a really easy way if people are going to throw them away to help someone in need.
March for Our Lives organizers say about 850,000 people attended the rally. The advocacy group hopes to have a similar turnout to their previous donations from last year's Women's March, where they collected about 2,000 Smart Trip cards. DC resident Oscar Nazabarinda says any help in transportation can make a difference.
We need Metro cards to go around. We have no other transport. We have no cars, we have no bikes. We have nothing else except the Metro card.
There are about 1,500 people experiencing homelessness in the district. DC Polly Taylor says Miriam's Kitchen is one of the places he can always count on.
I've been coming to Miriam for 26 years. I would come for breakfast with some friends. Well, our homeless always hung with the homeless, so we would come here for breakfast every day, that kind of thing.
Miriam's Kitchen's ultimate goal is to bring an end to homelessness, and residents say they continue to see their progress. I'm Crystal Campos for District Wire News.
A 16-year-old girl has died after being wounded by an armed student at Great Mills High School. Jalen Wiley was taken off of life support and was surrounded by her friends and family. Wiley was one of the 2 students shot along with 14-year-old male student who was discharged from the hospital. Wiley's uncle, Timothy Cormier, issued a Facebook post in memory of his niece, calling her the most sweet, caring, beautiful young lady he's ever met.
Hundreds of Sacramento residents flooded the streets and freeways, causing a lockdown right before Sacramento's Kings basketball game. The protest was held in response to 22-year-old Stephon Clark, who was killed by Sacramento police officers. Clark was unarmed in his grandmother's backyard last Sunday when he was shot by police 20 times. Police officers believed Clark was charging towards them, holding a gun, not realizing it was his cell phone. A few days after the body cam footage was released, showing officers muting their cameras. Since the incident, 2 officers were placed on administrative leave as the investigation continues.
An FBI deputy director resigns after criticism from the president and lawmakers.
And your Lyft and Uber prices may be increasing due to new taxes in the district. More with the details when we return.